A lot of our
Is
crew will be
everybody
there with
okay
their
with me
group.
recording this session? I just want to
Yes.
make sure I have everyone's permission. All right.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jim, a lot of our crew will be there with their troops, their home troops.
Yeah.
Rather than as the ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they have dual membership. The reason I was putting it out there is if you wanted to do a light recruitment pop-up canopy
Yeah. I
about your ship and how to
no, I understand. And basically what we try to do is if we've got an event like that, we push all of our dual registers to their troop. And that's where we expect them, their first obligation needs to be. And then we're going to have whatever the leftovers are going to do the opening yacht day flags stuff for some of the yacht clubs. So we have deliberately not had, so that's how we split everybody up. Although maybe we'll go to Weeblo's Woods. That's why I was asking about that.
Well, I will also be there for registration. Neil, you and I can talk offline
Right.
if there's maybe just a, like people have questions kind of thing.
Yeah. Put on a blue uniform, so maybe they ask you. Yeah.
I will come in a blue uniform. Yeah.
Hey, Heather.
It's way more flattering.
I will say the survival suit is a perennial highlight at Weeblo's Woods.
The Gumby suit?
Yeah, kids love the Gumby suit.
Yeah, it's technically an immersion suit, but yes, it's effectively known as a Gumby suit.
All right. Great. All right, let's go ahead and get started. I guess everybody's dribbled in that's going to dribble in. So the topic for this month, let me see if my clicker's right, is basically youth member retention. So we've gone through Weeblo's Woods, we've gone through recruitment. A lot of new scouts are bridging over January through March timeframe typically. So we just want to kind of go through and discuss how different groups are hooking their new members. And that's from the first meeting on. And then I kind of broke it up into age groups because at least my observation is there's the initial excitement for a year or two. Then there's kind of that second class through star grind where they're not able to go on high adventure yet, but they're not new scouts. And then there's 15 plus year olds. If all they're doing is hanging out with the young kids, then they kind of get bored of that pretty quickly and move off to other things. So what are various troops doing to keep the excitement and interest level going with the older scouts? So as I said, I'm not sure I've actually introduced myself formally. My name's Greg Rule. I was a committee chair in PAC 566 for a number of years. I am probably been Scouts for coming up on 2 years now as an adult leader. I was an Eagle Scout as a youth. And now I'm the Scoutmaster at Troop 855. So definitely new to the modern scouting game. So I'm very interested in kind of picking everybody's brains and sharing knowledge as we move forward on this stuff. So I think the first topic I want to talk about is, what do you guys do? Does anyone do anything special the first meeting or something initial that gets the youth excited? I know for our troop, one of the things we, when the youth bridges, we give them a scout book, and at least my 2 kids were really excited about getting the scout book. They were paging through that thing for multiple days, just kind of seeing all the different cool stuff that they were going to be able to do and learn. I'm not sure if we're an outlier or not in that regard, but just kind of open up to the floor. What kind of things do you guys do to kind of hook the scouts to that first meeting or first couple of meetings to get them coming back?
We do something similar. So we have the hat, and then, or we give a hat too, along with the book.
All right.
And then I feel fortunate because I have one girl in my troop that's the resident greeter. So I think every new scout gets at least 3 hugs.
Okay.
Standing.
Yeah, we do kind of something similar. On the crossover, we do a hat. They get their uplets. They'll get our troop patch and the book. And then at the very first troop meeting, we've got welcome packets for the parents, and we'll pull the parents off to talk to them, and then we make sure we have a youth scout who is the younger patrol's mentor, like a troop
Okay.
guide, and then Scoutmaster will call out the new youth. Sometimes we get one or two that start at the same time. Sometimes we'll have one or a few more, and they get their patrol patches.
Okay.
So, if we have them joining, we usually have patrol patches ready to go.
And you
so
have
they get them.
you have your new youth spread out to existing patrols then, Beth?
Kind of. We had started a younger patrol last year. And then we got 4 new ones this year. So they're all within about maybe 6 months of each other. So
Okay.
It kind of fleshed out that patrol to make it easier. If we start out and we've got a bunch and we're going to start a new patrol, that same night we sit them down, we take them out to, is it Class B, where you can get the patrol
Sure,
patches, and we
yeah.
get them to solidify this is a patrol patch. We talk about, we try to get them to elect right then and there a patrol leader and assistant patrol leader. And again, we have the troop guide helping as well. It's an older scout that will come in, they're at least first class or higher. And so they're getting involved with stuff. So, and we always play games and stuff like that. So it's not just business all the time, but, and then we have those welcome packets for our parents to kind of give them a little bit more introduction. They've already spent time getting to know us through the recruitment process and through the visiting process, but this is the getting down to brass tacks of all of the stuff that you will need. A little bit more about what Boy Scouting is. And we sit down with the parents, me and my committee will sit down with the parents while the Scoutmaster and our ASMs are out there with the youth, and make sure that the parents get all that lovely knowledge that they're never going to remember
Right.
for that.
Whoa. Where's LaHaye?
Where's
LaHaye's?
one and you're out the other. Hey, I
Yeah.
told one parent the other day, I said, I've been doing this more than 10 years. It takes this long just to remember everything.
Yeah.
So we were truly trying to make them feel welcome. When we have our first camp out, it's usually one where it's been a family camp out experience shortly after our crossover, so that the parents can also come with the youth scout. We'll do a KOA type thing, or
More of a drive up camp then.
yeah, something where it's an easy, so that parents can come in, and then as adults, of course, we're going to embrace the youth, we're going to embrace the parents and make them feel like they're part of our group, making them feel welcome.
Yeah. I was gonna say most of our recruitment.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I was gonna say most of our recruitment is that formal process where they're coming over as Webelos, and they've already visited X times. The parents have already met the adult leaders, both the youth facing and committee members. They kind of know what's going to happen, right? So it's but still there's a lot of nervousness, right? That I think those first my oldest especially, he's one of the more nervous kids, so he's like, did I make the right decision? And just kind of but after 2 or 3 meetings, and of course it's like, oh, I can't possibly imagine joining anywhere else. So, and I'm sure he'd have felt the same way no matter which troop he picked, but it was just that kind of getting over that hurdle. Sure. Yeah, it's like is this scout thing really going to work out or not? So
yeah, and I kind of harken back to when I started with my older son, who's an Eagle, and my youngest, who's getting there. And I remember the first couple of meetings I went to, even though I was still working in Cub Scouts, just people saying, hey, you have to, it's a mind shift. In Cub Scouts, we're so used to parents going. And we want to encourage any parents to, sign up, be a leader, come join us. We don't hold back on that, but it's now it's that shift of, rather than you leading the scouts everywhere, it's now the youth. We're trying to do that transition for them.
I find it's more of a shift for the parents and the
So I think as a committee, we try to spend a lot of time with the parents, kind of engaging with them, making them feel comfortable. I think a lot of the times is the parents feel comfortable with the choice they've made, or the path or the group that they're with, and it translates also to the scout.
I think it's important to keep if you can have a space in wherever you're meeting that you can have parents be kind of off to the side, so that the kids aren't looking out the window going, oh, mom's out there or dad's out there. But parents feel comfortable that they can observe whenever they want. Obviously they're allowed to be there whenever they want, but building that relationship between the committee and the other parents, I think is a big help in retaining and then working those parents eventually into leadership.
Well, if they don't trust the adult leaders at the meeting, then they're certainly not going to trust us to take their kids out in the woods.
Right?
So it's, gotta ease them into that. So.
And we've been starting regular parent meetings just to get more involvement because a lot of parents, even like myself, my husband was the Eagle Scout and I didn't know. And so having meetings where we're kind of going through information and giving them the background so that they understand scouting because a lot of them are new to scouting. So it helps get them involved and pulls them away a little bit from the kids. I think the more fun you can have and the engagement, the kids planning the meetings and making sure that everybody has an active role helps with new scouts because they don't feel left out. When you don't have meetings that they're just sitting and watching, or it's,
Sure.
it seems clicky, right?
Yeah, no, we rotate the duties on, opening or closing flags, sometime, depending on the SPL, how they want to divvy it out. They may assign game to a patrol, but every meeting is a parent meeting for us. Just right after opening flags, parents go off into a room, and youth stay in the main area. So that's been very successful, just because there's so many little things that need to happen, like little jobs that, parents say, oh, it's, I got to run over to Fred Meyer and pick up some chips for whatever thing. Like, there's a lot of parents who are very willing to help out with all those little things, which then all of a sudden takes a lot off the plate of, say, the committee chair or some of the more active adults. So the parent meeting has been very successful for us.
I think that real quick, and I got to run, but the training the parents is as much as training the scouts, because there have been we had a new parent just the other night who was like, so what do you guys do to protect yourself when you go out in the woods? Do you take guns? And I was like, whoa, wait, back off, was just not his experience as an adult camping with family and whatnot was a whole lot different than camping with the scout group or whatnot. So his view of, so we had a lot of discussion with them for sure, where we go and what's safe and what's not, and these guides, because there's a lot of people that, if they just, maybe their kid was in Weeblos and that was it, they really didn't have the full 4 or 5 years of Cubs. They may not know, or they may not know anything about scouting. The kid's excited, but the parents can sometimes douse that if they're not getting understanding how things are going too.
And not just the parents. We've had situation of parents going on trips that variety of problems behaviorally, or the way we want to run things in scout problems, the whole gamut, right? And then also leaders like, oh, here comes an adult that's really excited, wants to help out, wants to become assistant scoutmaster, and it's like, oh, a bunch of our ASMs have aged out, let's sign these people up. And it turns out not that it's a bad choice, it's just that this person needs more training on just how to run a trip. Like, hey, parents want to email, like, heads up, like, we're headed home now, or just kind of some basic and every troop has probably different ways of running the trip, but it's like, here's the way we run it. We need to educate our new leaders that we've got a trailer. This is how the lock on the trailer works. This is how type of truck you need to tow the trailer. This is all those kind of details, right? So there's a lot of hidden training, I think, for the adults as well.
And if I could add,
sure.
There's also getting the parents used to, at least our unit, the parents right after flag go to the other room for a parents meeting. And part of that was at the request of the SPLs over the years, who didn't need to be under the eyeballs of all the parents watching the chaos that is a troop meeting sometimes. And but it's also the scoutmasters are still in the room, so the supervision is still there. It's also through your trained leaders, and so it's kind of like they're in the other room. They're letting them know they're not just running amok in the gymnasium, that there is a plan, hopefully, and that there is a referee in the room. And that's, especially for the new parents, it's getting them used to that because that's what's going to happen out on the campouts.
Jim, I think real quick, having the parents come in for flag and then leave and show reverence of the flag or that beginning. We had a time where people were gathered in the back of the room and they were all chitty chatty and the scouts were trying to do the flag and, we're trying to get them all to stand up straight and be quiet. And they got parents back there chiming in. So we really kind of shifted that to parents do the flag and then walk out if they're going to be in the back of the room or go to another room. So
Yeah, no, I agree, Tom, what you were saying earlier, having that separate space, because the parents want to chit chat and you're not going to, just the scouts want to chit chat too. You gotta, if there's any way to physically separate them in rooms, that's going to be successful. So,
thank you
And-
all.
yeah, all right, thanks.
And,
Have a good night, Tom.
yeah.
Hey,
thank you,
Greg.
Tom.
Yes. Mhm.
Getting back to your original question, I just want to throw in that anytime that you're able to make a scout individually feel welcome, especially in a troop and he doesn't know anybody or
Yep.
she doesn't know anybody, it's no matter what way you do it. I've been on both ends of that. I've been on the ends of a scout just kind of wandering in and being told, okay, you're in this patrol, and they don't really know what's going on, versus the complete opposite end, which would happen just to be the ship, the way that we welcome people. And it is a big difference for that scout in the way that they're welcomed into that troop. They need to know straight off the bat that they're one of them now. They're part of this group and they're excited to be there. The other scouts are excited to have them, and it really does make a big difference.
Yeah, I think Beth was talking about the youth patrol with the troop guide, and that's how our troop does it, is all the new scouts get shoved into a patrol, which is definitely chaotic and the kids don't know what they're doing also. But if that 16-year-old knows their name, like I know their name, but they maybe slight excitement or they could care less. But man, when the 16-year-old knows their name and is talking to them, they're really excited about that. And you need the troop guide for those youth patrols it needs to be selected carefully, right? It's got to be somebody who's just naturally friendly and welcoming, and will get the kids excited about scouts. So I think I agree with what you're saying, Heather, is that if somebody, when they show up, they know their name, or hey, I missed you last week, and they miss a meeting, then it's like, oh, people care that I'm here, right? And then it's kind of gets their gears turning a little bit. So let's shift on to like the first trip. I know there's talk about kind of a drive up camp. We do something similar, although February is usually our snow camping. So technically some of the Weeblos who just bridged could go snow camping. There's the occasional rare youth that is super prepared, has done a bunch of camping and things with their family, is very comfortable in snow. That's fine, but we make it very clear, like, this is a more challenging trip. So usually their first one is we go out toward a campground near Mount Hood. So it's a drive up camp, but it's usually rainy or a little bit of snow. It's not always good conditions, but we have a huge pavilion with fire pits. So they're able to dry everything out each night. They're able to hang out and have fun. We get a little service project, do all your fireman chit and whittling chip stuff, because that seems to be very popular as the first activity for the youth, being able to use the axe or their pocket knives. So what other so Beth, I think if you're still around, what
here.
activities do you do on you're saying KOA?
We do KOA. We did Winter Lodge. So one of our one of our crossovers, like literally the next weekend, was Nanich. We went to Nanich, and
okay.
One of the dads in the new scout was also a registered leader. They have a younger one in Cub Scout still, so he was ready to go. And we have this I mean, I forget how tiny they are when they cross over. It's just it's like, oh wait. And so here's this little pipsqueak. He's maybe like 95 pounds soaking wet, and going up that hill in Nanich. So it was just the enthusiasm, and I think that was I think that first camp out really helps. Or the weekend, like, as soon as possible, doing, even if it's a day activity, if it's a hike, or like we have a fishing trip coming up. We have 2 fishing trips coming up with our scout troop. But we plan to have a camp out, 1 or 2 that are really close to the crossover, so that we can get those new scouts crossed over. The cool thing was, like, right before the crossover, right, the weekend before the crossover, we were going to KO8. So his family and he came out and they spent the day with us at the KO8 campground. He's like, we've already decided and we want to come join you guys for the day. So they came out and were able to see how we do things, even at a drive up camp.
Mhm.
But then having that winter launch come up as well was good.
Jennifer or Joe or anybody, what's your first trips usually?
Our first trip, especially when it's at crossover time, is a lot of times we've been going to Meriwether or Camp Clark, and we do what we call the campouts themed scouting skills. So many of the older scouts lead different stations to help the scouts in the troop that need advancement, especially the younger ones, so they can get the new ones. They can get just advancement, and they just see what it's like as soon as they can.
Okay.
I usually warn all the parents that they should really, they'll feel mean, but to ask their kids to pack and unpack their sleeping bags and their pads at home. I said, because most of them cry. And that will make them even more successful the first time they come out camping.
Yeah.
The parents laugh
Yeah.
and then they're like, oh yeah, those stuff sacks are terrible, aren't they? I was like, yeah.
Well, it was funny that for the snow camping, that snowstorm hit the weekend before. So I sent out an email to everyone like, everyone who has not been on this trip, go outside and set your tent up right now. This is a golden opportunity to understand how tent stakes work in the snow or don't work in the snow. And you kind of practice at the safety of home. So, and one of the kids he's just started his second year, he camped out overnight in his backyard because he wanted to make sure his pad worked and sleeping bag was working and everything.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so okay. It sounds like it's more activity based, what I'm taking from this versus or I guess it's kind of a mix. It's just more having the youth show up and do something with the older scouts seems to be the hook from a trip standpoint. As long as it's not hugely mentally taxing for them. It's obviously a 15-mile backpack may be a little brutal for that 75-pound kid in February, but I know there's some kids who really like getting patches for stuff. So whether that's advancement, whether that's you've gone to some sort of special camp or some activity, having that patch is or even just getting a sign off in the book gets them really excited. My youngest is really excited about showing mommy whatever sign offs he got each night. Like that's the thing that really drives him.
And when you're coming out of the Cub Scout program where there's a lot more immediate recognition.
Yes, right.
And sign off and segments. We don't do segments. I wish we did, but we don't. But that's, you can always tell the kids who are, really active because they have to untuck their shirt in order to show you all their segments. So.
Yeah. No, that's a good point because they're getting something almost every meeting in Cub Scouts if they're showing up and participating with active packs. Then Scouts is no, it's maybe after a few meetings you got Scout and then a month or two or whatever, maybe tenderfoot if you're moving along, but it's not typically they're not working on merit badges, so that's I think we shoot for about 3/4 of honors a year. It's not a weekly recognition per se. So we try to have anyone who goes up on a trip, have them come up on the next meeting, they come up and do a trip report. So just like we don't do a full roses and thorns there. We do that at the end of the trip, but we just have them say something that they enjoyed on the trip. So sometimes for those kids, like just standing up in the front of the room with some of the kids and seeing the kids who did not go on it, makes them feel a little special. So that also seems to
Yeah, we
help.
do something similar where we have everybody who went on the trip step forward, say adults, everybody, and then we go around the room and everyone gives at least one or two things that they really liked on the trip.
Yep.
And so then you have the adults that are standing behind them, the scouts standing behind them going, gosh, I really wish I'd gone. So we do that for every one of our trips. It's just, we're in patrol lines and it's right in the beginning of the announcements and everyone step forward who went on this thing and then everyone give a few words as to what it is you liked about it and go from there.
One of the topics later this year is how to challenge some of the older youth. Like we've had issues of just like getting them to do something besides drive up camping, just and to certain age groups for whatever reason. And I think that really helps. Like, oh, that 11-year-old just went on the backpacking trip that I was afraid of going on, and I'm 14. Like, oh, and they don't say it out loud or whatever, but you can see the that they're they're mulling it over for next year. So, I think any bad first trips, any trips that people have tried that did not work out? Yeah, Jim.
Well,
Besides Camporee last year.
Oh my
It
God,
just
don't
didn't
even
work.
start on that
no
one.
camp, yeah, okay. No involvement.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we kind of found, for several years, our senior patrol leader was a 12-month term, and that was because we were a group, and as we grew, in order to give more leadership experience, we went back to the traditional 6-month term, which is September to March. And guess what? You have a brand new SPL when the new kids are crossing over, and you also have brand new patrol leaders, because you do new patrol leaders. So the whole PLC has shifted about the time that you get crossover happening. And the April campout is a little rough.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to figure out their leadership position.
Well, what I've instituted is everyone's supposed to have a duty roster. And if you don't think you need a duty roster, that's fine. You're just in charge of doing all the work. So it really encourages the senior patrol leader to make sure the patrol leaders have duty rosters, and the patrol leaders, have all the duties that could possibly ever happen are written down there and assigned. So,
well, and when I was scoutmaster, everybody knew that myself and an ASM would walk the campsite, and dirty dishes and food out and anything that wasn't copacetic. If somebody had been assigned to do it, they either needed to get their boots on and come out and do it. And for failure of leadership, the patrol leader would get out and finish that task.
Yep.
So it became pretty apparent really quick to the patrol leaders that they need to enforce their own duty roster,
right.
or else the scoutmaster would.
Yep.
So.
All right. Anything that I've missed here on just the new members, like new members, meaning like say the first year in Scouts? One thing that maybe is so obvious that I didn't write down, summer camp. I think that's super critical for first year kids. Like that is a major highlight in every sense of the word. Right? Yeah, they're hanging out with older kids at campfires and being able to unlock all the cool things that Scouts can do, like shooting sports or more stuff down at the waterfront. I think that's just a big, we really encourage every parent, like your kid really needs to go to summer camp if you want them to stay in Scouts. So.
I can comment a little bit about older programs and so forth, and back to what hooks them and so forth. And before, when we had a boathouse and we were at the sea base, we would meet actually at the sea base. So in those days, when we had a new person come down, the general rule is if it's your first time, we're going out on the boat at night or whatever. And so we would put, that new 14-year-old on the helm. And so they were driving, a 9-ton vessel,
Right.
before they've ever driven a car. And so that was pretty exciting, one way to kind of hook them initially. And so that was kind of exciting there. Although I got to tell you, one of the most, which seems a little bit strange, but I hooked more people into joining us by our very first meeting that we invited them to was actually a base duty, which is a service project for the sea base. And so they were out there for the full day, out there with hammers and whatever else was that needed to be done, but they were basically working the whole day. But actually putting in all that physical labor and working with new people and all that sort of thing. As I say, I actually attracted more people that stayed in the program. It's like, well, is that as hard as it gets, type of thing. And so they were, as I say, I hooked more that way. Kind of the next stage is once they've signed in their papers and so forth, and we have an adult or a youth application for them, you know, what they're getting is they're getting that ship's hat, they're getting the ship t-shirt. There's a little hatting ceremony that they go through in our unit. And that's really when they become a part of the crew there. And the other comment I was going to make is that we ask the youth if they want their parents involved. You know, if they say yes, then we'll invite them in, and you know they can play. But if the youth really doesn't want their parent involved, then we'll probably push them off to the background a little bit, because we're after the youth, and if we get parents, fine. But that's not where our focus is. So.
Right.
Anyway, it's a little bit different for older scouts that I found than kind of the, you know, when you're bringing them in from a Cub Scouts to Scouts BSA, but going to that older group, their interests are a bit more their own, because you got to.
Is it 14 is the youngest?
Yeah, minimum. Well, 13 and finish the 8th grade, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
But 14 through 20, right?
Okay.
So that's. We're trying to hook an older audience, and they make their own decisions about whether they're going to do this or not.
Well, they already have their interests.
Yep.
Whether they stay their interests or not, but they're kind of locked in by that point. Yeah, so, okay. Okay. Next kind of category is that 12 to 14-year-olds. So say year 2 in Scouts, up until when they can start doing actual high adventure trips. And I learned this year, actually, you can go to sea base as a 12-year-old. On the boat if your parent goes. I'm not sure if anybody else knew that, but there's high adventure trips that you can go at a pretty young age, and I think 13 on the boat without parent, and then scuba of course is older, but so exempting that, I think one thing that's really happening here is they're really locking into their friend groups. And that could just be 2 or 3 other scouts that they like hanging around with on the trips. And it's whatever that friend group is going to do is what they're going to do. So either that friend group, they all go on all the trips, and just going on the trips, they magically start getting advancements because they're doing everything. Or if the friends aren't showing up to meetings, and they don't show up to meetings. And it's kind of it's hard to figure out which ones are going to stick around necessarily. And I think kids that are really involved in sports end up dropping Scouts, and there's just so much sports stuff that's going on. But yeah, just trying to get that friend group. If you can get one of them to go, then they tend to all go on the chat, because I think we try to get them on these more challenging trips like the snow camp or backpacking, canoe trips, things like that, where it's really not that challenging. It just looks challenging to a kid that age. And when they're done, then they got a little swagger, right? They talk to their friends about what their friends did over the summer, or what they're doing this past weekend, the President's Day weekend. It's like, oh, I went skiing on Mount Hood for a day with my family. Well, we spent 3 days back in the woods snow camping and 10 feet of snow. That's and whoa, the friends get excited, they talk at school. So you can do some like adventure-y things before high adventure, I guess has been our approach. So I'm interested to hear what others have been doing with this age group.
This one's not really age specific, but we had some of our patrols that kind of stuck together for longer than we had anticipated them doing, and there were a couple of them that kind of fell into that 2nd or 3rd year category of being in the troop. And we had one patrol in particular that was kind of frustrated at the amount of outings they were doing, not enough camping, not enough variety in what they were doing. And they organized and went to the Scoutmaster and said, can we have patrol campouts? And the Scoutmaster said, that'd be fantastic. And this patrol, which my kid was in, they arranged it. They went to Crater Lake. Every other patrol went, we want to do that. And so they had a little bit of autonomy to increase the amount of stuff that they were doing. We had one that wanted to work on like a Nova award, that type of thing, that they were able to increase their activity level and do some things that they wanted to do that maybe the troop PLC couldn't manage to really pull it together. And we found a lot of success with that.
No, that's what I really like that idea because they tend to get in their cliques and then they're a patrol. Because when we do patrol reorgs, it's like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with my buddies and I think that's a great thing. Like we've done the patrol campouts, but it's usually geared around, okay, everybody's got to do a ton of cooking. So we're just gonna go, yeah, they're cooking at troop campouts, and then there's the a couple patrol things where they're also doing their cooking requirements all the way up through first class, or maybe even starting on cooking merit badge. So it's been in that vein rather than, hey, we all want to go do some STEM activities, or I know my kid and a few others went down to the welding merit badge that council offered, and they loved it. They had a complete blast down there. So I think having those patrol organized activities, that's a really good idea.
Yeah, we do
So-
that quite a bit where the patrol, we have like 1 month where patrols have to organize their own campouts and stuff like that. They can do it more than one time, but we definitely have at least 1 month where rather than doing a troop outing, they do patrol ones.
The other thing that the patrol campout allows you to do is to let the guys or the girls pick where they want to go. And
Mhm. Yep.
Often, because PLC is a democracy, it's majority rule, and you may end up always going tailgate camping because that's where people are comfortable.
Yep.
The patrol may say, well, we want to go, on more of a backpacking, type of camp out. Or one of my favorites was the adults had the food and the guys backpacked out to Cape Mears and had to catch their food. And there was
Oh,
emergency
interesting.
food in the backpack of the two adults that went. But for the most part, they had clams, crabs, and I'm not sure what else that they ended up eating. But I have
Whatever got all out of there.
very proud scouts holding clams and
Yeah, right.
and crab that they managed to catch and sustain life from the sea.
Yeah, we're doing
Interesting.
a full clamming outing coming up here in April.
Where are you going, Beth? Just at Garibaldi
One of
or?
our scouts, they own 40 acres out in Astoria.
Oh, okay.
So if we can't, we have to wait and see if the clamming season is up and down depending on what's going on. So if not, he's got that full property out there, so we'll do other things as well.
Oh, neat. Yeah, no, I like that patrol camp out idea. I think that's a good way to, whether they're excited about the troop activities, it gives them activities that they're excited about and kind of stay involved for that. So okay, 15 plus year olds, I think my troop gets really involved in OA, and they really like the especially some of our more drive up camper kids. OA is that older kid. They're doing hard work. They're doing service things, but it's still not backpack expedition kind of trip for them, and they enjoy the camaraderie and everything that comes with the OA weekends. And then we've got other kids that they want, as much high adventure as you can throw their way, right there. We got a couple kids on like mountain search and rescue teams outside of Scouts, and so they want, what is the snowiest, most, biggest backpack trips or canoe trips and things that we can organize. So fortunately, we're a bigger troop, so we're able to kind of run both things, or we have enough youth to fill up both things. So what else? Because I know one, if they're just showing up to summer camps, it's like, oh, I spent my summer with a bunch of 11 and 12-year-olds at summer camp. That's typically not going to cut it for most 16 or 17-year-olds, right? They're they may enjoy going to summer camp, but that's not a highlight for them necessarily. So so what else are you guys doing? Are you do a lot of high adventure, or you have more local specialized trips for the older scouts?
We have a fleet of kayaks, so we do and not, they may or not, I'm not sure. They're doing a 50 miler this year. Last one we did was a 50-mile hike. We rotate between biking, kayaking, and hiking.
Okay.
But we are doing some kayaking excursions this coming spring and summer.
Is that like sea kayaks, Beth, or is that more?
They're sea kayaks, yeah.
Okay. So are you
We used to have a bunch of canoes, and then over the years, we realized when 2 scouts were spinning in a canoe that canoes were not accessible. This one canoe was just, we're like, that has to go. But we introduced the scouts a long time ago to kayaks, and so we started trading out our older canoes for kayaks.
do you do river trips, or
my
are
husband
you
was a licensed instructor for kayaking. He's renewing that, but we go out, a lot of us do kayaking, and we have a good time with doing that. So
is this river trips then, or
we did a 50 miler on the
coastal, or?
Willamette River. We've gone
Okay.
to Hag Lake. We've gone up to the Puget Sound.
Mhm.
Really depends. We've even gone over by Wasabi Island up that way, Port of Portland.
Okay.
So it depends on where they want to go and what they want to do, but the kayaks are pretty easy for them to do.
Okay. Jennifer, what do you guys do? There's Jennifer. Maybe dropped. Or Joe or Keith or people we haven't heard from.
Similar to what some of the other groups. Last year we sent 18 scouts and 6 adults to Philmont. So just we do Philmont every other year. So that's a big one for our older scouts. Aside from that, we just try to make sure that we're camping every month, but and we vary it up as much as possible, but it's purely on the scouts to determine where we're going and what we're doing, of course. But June we're doing like a troop backpacking trip just in the gorge. It probably won't be too far, about 8 or 9 miles. Stay the night and then head back out. So just trying to vary it up. They talked about in the fall trying to do the Evergreen Aviation Museum again. They've tried to pull this one across the line for like the last 5 or 6 years, and they've not been able to do it yet. So maybe we'll do it this year. We'll have to see. But so those are some of the things, and then just kind of, like I said, varying it up from month to month, and making sure that everyone has a chance to do something that they like to do. Like we do, like you've all mentioned, we do the winter lodges in January. We do a snow cave camping in February. March is our camp out of doom, or our scout skills camp out, whatever you'd like to call it. April's
Act
family
skills
camp.
/ first aid weekend, and
Yeah. So it's kind of a mix of a lot of the things that you've all mentioned already.
Cool. I think one thing that we've started to try to implement a little bit is you're always gonna have the older scouts who are helping teach the youth, but then there's a bunch of other kids that are just kind of standing around, and we've been trying to up level some of the activities or skills. So for this drive up camp kind of thing we're doing in March is the younger kids are learning their basic knots. Well, maybe we're going to do something more pioneering oriented with the older kids, or we're going to encourage them to do more alternative cooking, like either Dutch ovens or utensilist cooking, or things of that nature, just to try to stretch your boundaries a little bit, because they get to the point where, okay, we're gonna have ramen and a pack of meat and some veggies and throw in a pot every camp out, and they've got their recurring menu, and they're not really stretching the boundaries too much. So
piggyback on the leadership thing too, is we encourage and kind of try to offer scholarships to get as many of our youth to NYLT, because then they seem to really, we've had a couple come back with kind of a renewed spirit, like, oh hey, we can be teaching this and we can do this. So we try to send as many as we can to NYLT. We have one scout right now who's doing Wrangler stuff. He's super into doing the Wrangler stuff, so he's down at Butte Creek a lot. And then our troop is a little unique, and completely accidentally, by I don't know, force of nature or whatever, we have the ship that a lot of our troop has filtered into doing the Sea Scout experience, and have absolutely loved that. And we've been able to merge the two together so that they're able to have both, which is unique. Not a lot do it, but kind of like Beth said with the sea kayaking, it's a similar thing. Go do something different, and that keeps them interested, and they come back for more for both.
we're talking about NYLT that jogged my memory. Have any of you heard of Kodiak Weekend or Kodiak Weeks or Kodiak excursions before? It's kind of a NYLT plus, but it's like say you go on a week-long backpacking trip, but it's also NYLT kind of things. Just reading about youth leadership, I was reading through the different options, like, oh, that would be really cool for the older scouts. But I've never heard the council ever offering something like that. I don't know if that's, if people have been around longer than me have heard of that being offered.
I've heard it. I've never seen it offered through our council. I think that's what we have to go find.
Yeah.
Klondike Derby is a good one too. We did that one. We did that a couple of years and they loved that.
What's the Klondike Derby?
Camp-free on snow.
Yep, pretty much. They had to build their sled, and they had like their little sled races, and it was a snow camp out, and it was real. They had a lot of fun.
Oh my God, I might have to pitch that one because we're always looking for new things like that.
Yeah, we did our snow camping last weekend, and it was yeah, of course they're exhausted. They can't go any further. Barely get the tent set up. Then all of a sudden you turn around, there's giant snowball fights, kids running around, diving in the snow. So yeah, renewed
Amazing
energy.
when you shift their brains.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Okay, I'm tired. We're going Dairy Queen. Really?
Yeah, right. There's a
What happened? I thought you were tired. No, we're going Dairy Queen. We're fine.
Yeah.
When I was a youth in the Golden Empire Council in California, Klondike Derby was just as big and was done by the district, and it was just as big as Camporee, but it was on the snow in the wintertime.
Whereabouts in California?
Northern California, we go up in the foothills.
Yeah, my younger brother is an Eagle Scout, but we came from Southern California. Like we didn't see snow.
No, we weren't that far from Donner Pass, right? I mean, we could go up into the snow if we needed to.
Any other thoughts, comments? I think that would be actually, that's maybe something that I should list on here is Beyond Scouts, Explorers, Sea Scouts, etc. Because that's an older age group as well that they can pivot into. Okay, well, thank you for the conversation, everyone. Had some good ideas. Appreciate everybody's thoughts. I think we can just drop. We could also let me get a snapshot of attendees.
I guess
here
I have a potential announcement. I didn't know whether to do it in here or back at the beginning, but Timberline District for years has been helping out at Willamette National Cemetery for flags for Memorial Day, and while it's technically a Timberline District run thing, the numbers have gotten small enough that they don't mind others showing up and helping out and so forth. And I was just talking or emailing back and forth with the guy because there was some conversation. Is it going to be on Thursday before, or are we going to do it on the weekend and that sort of thing? And it's going to be the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend. And I'll mention it next month or something. But that's it. If people are into doing the flag thing, I know it's a little bit far for most of our units to travel over there, but I know our ship has done it and enjoyed doing that in the past. But we're kind of crashing a little bit onto theirs, but that's okay. They don't mind as long as we tell them about it and they plan on us.
Yes, don't just show up.
No, don't just show up. Let them know ahead of time. And
we've had people do that for us before with flags, not with our troop, but with our pack, and it's been like, really?
Yeah. Well, no, they organize it and all that sort of thing, but they appreciate the help, and it's usually a pretty big thing, a ceremony. And if you've never been up there for that, they have flyovers and all sorts of stuff before we actually plant the thing. So at any rate, I just thought I'd let people know about that potential service project if people are interested.
There's also for for Cub Scouts, David Markle, his pack and my previous pack, we do furlong. That we kind of own the flag plant out there, which is right out, downtown Hillsborough, basically. And we could
Yep.
definitely use some extra. I'm not sure I want to announce it at the full district amount of people, but it's I mean, there's.
And most ships, troops, units have something they often do as part of Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't want to take away from what they normally do, but it was more of a just a let people know that if that's something of interest, this might be a potential opportunity for them.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm going to exit the breakout room, and then I'm also going to stop sharing and stop recording here.